Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica. I am an indie author, toddler mom, and Sagittarius. Make of that what you will. Today we will be talking about underwriting, what it is, and some tips and advice that I have found to fix it basically, because I happen to belong to the Chronic Underwriters Club, unfortunately. So what is underwriting? Writers typically tend to fall into two categories. You've got your underwriters whose drafts typically come up very short, and we spend a lot of our editing and revision time adding words. Then you've got your overwriters whose drafts come out very, very long, and they spend a lot of their time editing and revising to tighten things up and trim things down into a more manageable draft. If you fall somewhere in the middle and your drafts always come out at the perfect word count point for your genre and age category, congratulations, we all hate you. Not really, but really. Okay, so why is this so important? Well, each genre and age category has its own basically standard word count for where a lot of the books fall in that genre. Readers kind of expect this. Publishing expects this. Since I don't have all these memorized, we are going to pull some publishing industry standard word counts out of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, great craft book, highly recommend it. So publishing industry standards for middle grade is typically going to be 40,000 to 60,000 words. Young adult novels, which is typically readers 12 to 17, the industry standard is 60 to 90,000 words. For general fiction for adults, you're going to see anything from 70,000 to 100,000 words. Now this is also going to, so those were just age categories, so word count is also going to vary by genre. So in the science fiction fantasy genres, you might see higher word counts creeping higher because of all the world building that's usually involved. But usually you're going to want to stick in to the range that's expected for the audience you're writing for. Now, before I get roasted for any of this, there are exceptions to the rules. There's always an exception. But we usually can't go into things thinking we're going to be the exception to the rule. Going to be more successful if you research and understand your audience's expectations. Now, you can do whatever you want. Honestly, do whatever you want. If you have a 500,000 word epic fantasy novel and you cannot think of any way to trim it or cut it down or like break it into 5 sections and have 5 books instead of 1, go for it. But you are going to have a harder time selling that product to readers. Longer books, and this is true for both the indie world and traditional publishing, longer books cost more to produce. So then the cost for the reader is going to be more as well. And you're not going to find a whole lot of readers who are willing to take a chance on a 500,000 word novel from a first-time published author who has not been tried yet. And then you're going to have a hard time in traditional publishing because agents are not going to take a chance and publishing houses are not going to take a chance on a 500,000 word novel from a brand new author with no track record of success. Now, if you are Stephen King, I'm sure he could write a 500,000, and he might have written a 500,000 word novel before, but he's Stephen King. We're not all Stephen King. So my advice is to play within the rules and the expectations for word count. I have some experience in this arena because, like I said before, I am a chronic underwriter. My drafts do typically come out very short, and I spend a whole lot of time trying to bring them up and make them actual novel length instead of like a novella or a short story when I was trying to write a novel. So I'm going to give you 6 tips / areas of revision to look at when you're writing if you think you're an underwriter or if you have issues lengthening, your work appropriately. So number one is to set a word count goal for your first draft and not stop until you've hit that goal. So for me, for my novel, Sometimes Love Ain't Enough, which is the first book in my new adult series, I set a word count goal of 50,000 for the first draft. That's mainly because I started it in National Novel Writing Month, where you're supposed to write 50,000 words in a month. That did not happen for me. But I did still want to hit that 50,000 words. 50,000 is a respectable amount. It is technically novel length. Even though not a whole lot of adult novels are typically longer than 50, but 50,000 words is good. I can work with 50,000 words. Is the novel finished? No. I've got some work to do, but it's a first draft. I hit all my story beats. I wrote from beginning to end. You know, I even have the epilogue done. So I can work with that. My first finished draft of The Girls of Fall was only 30,000 words. And I called that finished. That is not a novel. So I have spent a lot of time expanding on that. So my second tip, so we're talking about, you know, adding words for a purpose. We're not just fluffing, we're adding words because if a book is underwritten, there's usually stuff missing. So another area to look at is to take a look at your details and your setting. Have drawn things, all your settings, you know, places where the action takes place, places where your characters are. Make sure that you have drawn those in enough detail that your readers can see where those places are, and what they look like. Anything you include, you know, so like, for example, if you have a character in the bedroom, any kind of setting details that you include there is going to speak to who your character is. So, you know, these things aren't just fluffy. That's not just fluff. You're not just padding. You are adding characterization for the reader to understand your characters better. You know, add details to your character descriptions. You know, what are they wearing? You know, the outfits people choose speak to their characters as well. The outfits other characters notice speak to their character as well. What are their hairstyles? What kind of makeup do they wear? Do they not wear any makeup? All these details that you use and include helps the reader see your characters more clearly. And then when you're going through and adding details, make sure that you've used all 5 senses. What are our 5 senses? So sight, smell, hearing, touch. What's the other sense? I'm gonna have to Google. What is the other? What are all our 5 senses? Sight, sound, smell, touch. Is it taste? Taste? Okay, so a lot of writers won't include all of those in a scene, and you might not like taste. You might not be able to include taste in every scene depending on what it is, but a lot of writers will also just default to maybe sight, and everything is just what your characters are seeing, and you're not bringing in what are your characters hearing, what can they smell, you know, what can they touch, all that kind of stuff. The next is to take a look at your characters' reactions and make sure they are earning those reactions. So this was something that I would say the Girls of Fall struggled with maybe the most. So the main character is Sophia. She would be feeling one sort of way on one page, and then 2 or 3 or 4 pages later, she would be feeling some other way, and the reader did not get to go on that journey with her, and they should have. So that's definitely a good way to add words is to make sure your reader are going on those emotional journeys with your character, and that they're not just coming up, you know, everybody's happy-go-lucky, and then, you know, 5 pages later, we've got this really dramatic reaction to something, and the reader doesn't know how the character got there, or why they're so sad, or why they're so angry, or, you know, whatever, what other else they're feeling. So you want to make sure that you draw those clearly for the reader so that they come on that journey with your character. And something that kind of ties into this is your character's thoughts and decision-making processes as well. Especially in, so this is true of first person, and if you're writing a close third, your reader should be privy to the thoughts of your characters, obviously, especially if you're in first person, because you're in the head of the character. So the Girls of Fall is in first person. We're in Sophia's head, we're in her perspective. And so we should be having those thoughts from her, and she should be reacting to things and events that are happening around her. You know, and having thoughts and feelings about those things. That was something I would say, I noticed when I started thinking about these things and then looking at my own writing, I could definitely see where, as the author, I had pulled her back, and then we were just relaying things that they happened. So it was just, you know, she was relaying action, and there wasn't anything internal coming from her. And there definitely should have been, because we're in her head. So definitely take a look and make sure your characters are reacting to things. Readers know why characters are reacting the way they are. Make sure you're getting thoughts from your characters on things, especially if you're in a third close, or in first person. And then you want to make sure all your decision making, you know, your character's decision making thought processes are there. The reader should know why your character is taking a certain action, even if it's just like a small action. The reader should know why. It shouldn't be left up to interpretation, and they should be left feeling confused about why your character is suddenly, you know, in a rage, and that there's no foundation and there's no support for why she's such, you know, in a rage at anything, you know, at an event or at another character. The groundwork for that reaction should be there. And then, so my last and final point would be any kind of missing context that you as the author might know, but that you might have forgotten to let the reader know. So really anything that you think, so we get really close to our work, and there might be things, you know, there might be events, there might be reactions, there might be character relationships that are really, really obvious to us, but that are not going to be obvious to someone who is not as close to the work as us. So you want to make sure you're not leaving your readers accidentally in the dark as opposed to purposefully in the dark. You know, some books, you know, if you're like writing a mystery or thriller or whatever, your character might be purposefully in the dark. But if you're not, and they're not supposed to feel that way, and they're not supposed to be there, you need to make sure that your reader is not in the dark. And they're not walking away confused about why certain things are happening. Anytime you confuse your reader accidentally, and it's not a purposeful craft choice, that is not good, and they're not going to be happy. So just make sure you keep that in mind. Those are all the tips I have for you today. If you are an underwriter, leave a comment below and let me know what kind of strategies you've used. If you are an overwriter, you can also leave a comment below about how you get so many words, so that maybe some of us underwriters can take some of that advice as well. Definitely, you know, subscribe if you're interested. Would love to have you be a part of my channel, and then I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.